find yourself. We read it in books and we hear it in conversations. The phrase seems to assume that somewhere ahead of us is a clearer version of who we are. Someone who understands where they belong, where they are going, and how all the pieces fit together. We search for direction and purpose through relationships, achievements, and experiences, quietly believing that one day everything will settle into place. And when it doesn't, it becomes easy to wonder whether we have fallen behind, whether we missed a turn somewhere along the way. Beneath the search for identity often lies something simpler, a desire to understand our own being, the hope that if we could finally understand ourselves, the road ahead might become a bit easier to navigate. Most of us know what it feels like to stand at a crossroads without knowing which direction to take, to wonder whether we are moving towards something meaningful or simply moving. If we could finally understand who we are, perhaps everything else would become clearer as well. The road ahead would make a lot more sense. The choices would become easier. The weight of uncertainty would feel a little lighter. We search for purpose. We search for belonging. We search for meaning. We all want some sense of orientation, some indication that we are moving in the right direction, some reassurance that the path beneath our feet leads somewhere worth going. For as long as we have been crossing unfamiliar ground and looking beyond the horizon, we have searched for new ways to understand our place in this world. Our search for identity grows from that same desire, not merely to know who we are, but to know where we belong. When that understanding remains out of reach, it becomes easy to believe that we should know more by now, that we should be further along, that everyone else has somehow received an answer we missed. This is where many of us begin to feel lost. It appears gradually, a quiet sense that something no longer fits the way it once did. A direction that used to feel clear becomes difficult to recognize. A goal that once seemed important loses some of its weight. A version of ourselves that carried us this far begins to feel unfamiliar. We find that the answers that once guided us no longer seem sufficient. Old assumptions begin to loosen, and familiar landmarks begin to disappear. And without those landmarks, it becomes difficult to know where we are. We tell ourselves we should be more certain, more decisive, more prepared. We look around and wonder why everyone else seems to be moving forward while we are standing still. It is easy to see these moments as failures, to believe we have taken a wrong turn somewhere along the way. But looking back, many of the experiences that changed us most did not feel all that important while we were living them. We outgrow an expectation, and for a time the old map no longer matches the landscape. Not because the destination has changed, but because enough time has passed that the old markers no longer point the way. We assume we should already know where we are. We believe that somewhere ahead of us is a version of ourselves that finally makes sense. Someone who knows exactly who they are, where they belong, and what they are meant to do. This image can shape the way we move through life. It influences the goals we pursue, the decisions we make, and the way we measure our progress against the people around us. And yet, much of what matters in life seems to emerge gradually. A forest does not become itself overnight. Some things require time. Some things require growth. Yet, many of us struggle to extend that same patience to ourselves. We tell ourselves that we should know by now, we should understand by now, We should have arrived by now. But we are still in motion. The goal was never to uncover a finished version of ourselves. Instead, we remember conversations that changed us, challenges that tested us, mistakes we would not choose again, yet would not erase, and relationships that shaped us in ways we did not recognize at the time. The person we become emerges from experiences that seemed ordinary while we were living them. That is part of what makes the process so difficult to see. People are shaped by what they endure, by what they pursue, by what they love, and by what they leave behind. Not all at once, but gradually through time and experience. Identity is less like something waiting to be discovered and more like a path formed through walking. It may be invisible while we travel it, becoming clearer only when viewed from a distance. Looking back, I cannot point to a day when I became myself. I can only point to moments that changed me, moments that felt uncertain while I was living them, and that I did not fully understand until much later. There is a certain freedom in recognizing that, not because uncertainty disappears, but because we no longer expect it to. Much of life is spent measuring ourselves against an imagined destination. We picture a future version of ourselves who finally understands who they are, where they belong, and what their life is meant to become. From where we stand today, that version can seem remarkably complete. Yet, when we look closely at the world around us, completion is surprisingly difficult to find. Forests continue to grow long after they become forests. Rivers continue to carve their paths long after they become rivers. The longer we live, the more familiar that pattern begins to feel. A destination is reached, and another horizon appears. One question is answered, and several more take its place. Even the person we once hoped to become continues to change. Looking back, many of the things that once felt like destinations now seem more like milestones. Places to pause, reflect, and continue on. There is something comforting in that. Becoming is not a problem to solve. It is simply part of being alive. We spend years looking for an answer that always seems to be somewhere ahead of us. We tell ourselves that once we understand who we are, the uncertainty will fade and the road ahead will become clear. For a long time, I believed that too. I thought there would come a moment where everything settled into place. A moment when the questions grew quiet and the path forward revealed itself with certainty. Instead, understanding arrived gradually, not all at once but in fragments. We spend so much time searching for ourselves because we imagine there is an endpoint, a final version waiting somewhere ahead, a person who has finally arrived. But the years have a way of challenging that idea. The horizon moves, the landscape changes, and so do we.